I had a long discussion with an NBA assistant coach today about how I use small-sided games, how I structure the games, and my goals that I have when I use the games in terms of skill development. So it appears as though uh, the ideas behind using small-sided games and other more game-like drills is starting to take a small foothold, at least at the NBA level. Because, at least in this case, the coach, and this isn't the first NBA team that I've spoken with this offseason about skill development, it seems like these coaches are starting to see that some of the typical drills that proliferate among basketball trainers and basketball coaches at all levels really aren't developing the skills that transfer to games. So as we talked about, if you have, and I've seen some tweets and stuff like this this week, talking about how players are making upwards of 80% of their shots during practice, 90% of their shots during practice. But then you look at their stats, and even the best of them shoot 40% in games. To me, that suggests that something is wrong. And so you have to determine what it is that's wrong. But to me, if you're making 90% of your shots in practice, you're not challenging yourself to the extent that is necessary to continue to improve your game shooting percentage. So let's even take somebody like Steph Curry. Nobody's going to question that he's a great shooter, and I imagine in block practice drills he probably does shoot 90% if he wants to. And then but in games he's shooting 45% from the 3-point line. Okay, which of course is amazing in and of itself. But if he wants to continue to improve upon that 45%, is shooting 90% in practice going to get to that improvement? I don't know. I don't think so. I would think that setting up more conditioned drills and drills that contain more of the constraints of the game, which will reduce the practice percentage because there's more defensive pressure, there's more options, there's more choices, there's more variables involved in the shooting. So because there's more variables, the percentages are going to tend to go down. But I think that would actually give him a better chance to increase shooting percentages in a game. But again, as we talked about, there's a lot of different factors in terms of shooting percentages in games. Shot selection being one, obviously defense, fatigue, the long season. These are all factors involved in shooting percentages. So it's not easy just to say that one thing equates across the board. But the main point is, that even at the highest levels now, coaches are starting to question some of the drills that are used and used prominently, and wondering if there's a better way that we can incorporate more of the task constraints, whether in smaller drills that are a little bit more traditional, or whether moving more towards small-sided games in off-season practice, or with players on the bench that aren't getting as much playing time and spend more time practicing during the season. If these are better ways to develop skills. So if these are the ways that some of the NBA teams are looking at things, maybe it's time for high school and youth coaches to appreciate that adding some task constraints into common drills is a way that we can promote better skill development, and especially skill development that really transfers to the games.